All right, what's up, everybody? Hopefully you're all doing well. It's quite the windy and rainy night here in New York, but still got to do the stream. So we'll get started here in a moment. Hope everybody's doing well. See if we can get a good look at 432 Park. See if we could take a detour. Well, looking on the bright side, we really can't complain about the weather. The weather's been absolutely unbelievable in New York in a good way. So, can't complain. What's one rainy night or slash rainy day out of the whole big mix? Not too bad. Thomas Fisher, what's going on? Joy, Reggie 44. Excuse me, sorry, I had to sneeze. Apologize. Alan, what's going on? Dale, Patrice 2020 says we needed the rain. That's true. That is true. So no complaints. But actually, I will make one complaint. This type of rain that we've had today in New York is probably the worst. I would rather have a downpour as opposed to just like a misty rain, because if it's like a misty rain, the umbrella really doesn't do anything to help and you just get soaked. At least if it's coming down pretty hard, you know, the umbrella actually works. So anyway, guys, a lot to talk about tonight. Huge events playing out in the markets. But first, before we get started, we will just do the nightly audio and visual check. So if you guys can hear us, and if we're streaming in 1080p, just go ahead and leave a thumbs up in the chat and we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to New York City on this very rainy night. Connie Ruiz is here, Lance, New England Crypto, Doc 7, cheers, Stephen Bate, Patrice 2020, Jack, welcome, Peter, thanks for your email earlier today about the health scare. Always good to be, I guess, ahead of the curve on that, if you will. This is a very famous bar. This is the Polo Bar. It sits right across from the beautiful St. Regis Hotel. It's really nice in there. I've only been in there one time. Manny Man, what's going on? New England Crypto. Yeah, this is Bitcoin hit 99K earlier today on some exchanges. It's kind of wild, the moves that we've been having, my friends. Pretty wild. But I think we'll go ahead and get started since the audio appears to be good and the visual appears to be good as well. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks in Wall Street. Today is a very blustery November 21st, 2024. It is a Thursday. We are reporting live on 5th Avenue, looking up at the Crown Building, which is also the Amman, New York. We're just going to be taking a little bit of a stroll around Midtown Manhattan tonight, checking out some of the holiday decorations. Also, we'll probably, try to get down at 34th Street, Herald Square. Assuming the rain isn't too punishing tonight. I do apologize for being late. As I said, business has been picking up significantly in New York, which is good, but it also means we have to work late nights as well. I would say the most massive piece of news that we had today, super important. This is going to completely change the markets moving forward. Current SEC Chairman, Security and Exchange Commission Chair, Gary Gensler, is out of there. He is officially stepping down as SEC Chair. And this is probably the best news we've gotten all week, right? Better than the Nvidia earnings report, better than anything. As you know, if you've been watching the broadcast over the last, I'd say, maybe year or so, I haven't been the biggest fan of Gary Gensler for a multitude of reasons. I think he dropped the ball, particularly with setting reasonable and sensible regulations in and around the cryptocurrency environment. So I think the United States, instead of being behind the 8 ball, is now going to be ahead of the curve as it relates to Bitcoin and crypto, which should bring about a lot of investment back into the cryptocurrency environment, but specifically here in the United States, which is great. We had the president of Charles Schwab today coming out and kind of, making a statement, not because, the SEC chair is stepping down, but, I think it had a little bit something to do with it. He said, I feel a little bit silly not getting any exposure to the Bitcoin over the last couple of years, but assuming we get regulatory changes in the environment, Charles Schwab will be offering its clients products and services as it relates to Bitcoin. We knew this was coming. The institutions are here. Well, actually, that's not true. The big sovereign wealth funds, the big institutional investors are not really here yet. You have to have clear, reasonable guidelines set by the SEC. And once, Gary Gensler is out of there, but once we have the administration come in with the new SEC chair, who is obviously going to be pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto, it's going to be 2 thumbs up. Let's just say that. So now talking about some major market movements, intraday here today, Bitcoin has rallied as high as $99,000 per Bitcoin. Kind of wild, kind of crazy. I mean, if you've been watching the live stream, really over the past year, we've been kind of pounding the table about this monster cup with handle pattern, similar to the pattern that we saw with gold earlier in the year as gold broke over 1900, on its way to 2,800, kind of corrected a little bit. But the big handle on Bitcoin was over 70,000, and now we've pretty much gapped up in what I like to call a lockout rally all the way to 99,000. I think we've come down a little bit in the after hours. Obviously, Bitcoin trades 24/7, 365, but you know what I'm talking about. However, I would not be surprised if we see that big 6-figure Jesse Livermore round number 100,000, maybe in the overnight, because the Koreans are probably going to be waking up and bidding this thing to 100,000, right? I think that's the big magnet. Now, our intermediate term target, if you've been reading our newsletter, has been about 104,000. So that is the measured move, or the average measured move on a massive cup with handle breakout. If you compare it to the 2017 bull market, if you compare it to the 2021 bull market. So lots of monster moves, and at a time like this, I always like to kind of remember to ground myself. There's a really, really good song that I always listen to during bull markets when, you see your account balance balloon, right? It's called The Gambler. I'm sure many of you have listened to that song before. Oftentimes, during monster bull markets when a lot of my positions are working, my thesis has been correct. It's important to kind of take a step back and essentially don't count your chips when you're at the table. Essentially, right? If anybody's listened to that song, The Gambler, I would listen to it, print out a copy of the lyrics and kind of just read it back to yourself. Because it has a lot of good lessons in there for investing. So interesting day. Gary Gensler is out of there. We're going to be getting a new SEC chair, which should be quite exciting to watch. But until then, let's go ahead and say hello to everybody in the chat. Reggie44, what's going on? I see Julian. I see New England Crypto. Professor Dario, welcome, welcome. Trade Brigade, cheers to you, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. Terry, Lena, Hang with Mark Mom. Brad's Brain says, Tom, I hold BTC, but do you trade some as well? I do. Now, it's funny kind of that you mentioned that. I was reminiscing today on a lot of my early BTC buys. And I went back into one of my old email accounts that I used to have my original Coinbase linked up to. And I was like, my God, some of these buys, of Bitcoin in college, I have the buy receipts and it's like, damn, this was back in the day when you could buy one full Bitcoin for like a few $1,000s. It's really kind of crazy to reflect on the massive move, right? It's just really unbelievable, and that kind of goes back, right? Kind of making this a full circle statement here, that you just kind of need to be chill during these times, especially when you have like a rockin' bull market. Your positions are, firing on all cylinders. I always try to listen to reminiscences of a stock operator, the specific excerpts that I think are super important over and over and over again, and obviously listen to that song, The Gambler. Just not to never count your money when you're sitting at the table, right? There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing is done. Which essentially is also a good like psychological note to understand and focus on, right? When everybody's online posting their gains, bragging about how much money they're making, it's like, all right, let's chill here, not get too overly exuberant, keep your head on straight so you can manage these positions and not give back to the market what's probably life-changing money many of you have made this cycle. So always, keep a level head. And if you have made life-changing money, like something that's, big enough to change your life, maybe that means, pay off your college debt. Maybe that means for you, you could send your kids to college. You don't have to have them take on debt. Maybe it means paying off your mortgage. Whatever that life changer is for you, if you have it, it's always good in the first cycle that you first make it. Take it, set yourself up, right, to what I like to call idiot-proofing yourself. Pay off the mortgage, write a check, right? If you have a $300,000 balance on the mortgage, ring that register, send it right over to, whoever holds your mortgage, write a check, blow it out, pay it off, have a nice day, right? But you never want to give back, if you've made life-changing money, you never want to give that back to Mr. Market, right? So, set yourself up, whatever that means to you. Maybe that's just, a $25,000 credit card bill debt, right? You have a huge balance on the credit card, you've done well in the market, that would change your life. boom, hit it, blow it out, and then there'll be more than enough time to rebuild that war chest. Now, I had some time to do a little bit of a deeper dive into Nvidia's earnings report, which, by the way, we were all quite impressed with. Net income or profitability, I believe $19 billion for Nvidia over the last 3 months, which is absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. But what was most impressive to me is just the future run rate, right? The demand, just the overall verbiage from the earnings call, just about how much juice they have left in the pipeline and how much demand is further in the pipeline too. So another thing to keep our eyes on. Before I forget, I quickly wanted to ask everybody, obviously everyone by now has heard the news that Gary Gensler has stepped down as the SEC chairman. Any thoughts, any opinions? Who do we think is going to be next on the block? Who do we think is going to take that job? Any thoughts? I have a few people in mind that I would like to see take that position, but I wanted to know what you guys think about it. Hey, what's up, NBA Elias? Good to see you. JD's here. Jay, this is what's up, New York. What's up, Jay? It's very rainy New York night. Two Wheel Freedom, God bless. I think I see Solo 401 in here somewhere. Good to see you. 45 says I think he'll be there till January 20th. Yes, till January 20th. But that's pretty much like you're out of there. I mean, you blink of an eye, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and we're all done. DC322 says I have no preference. Oval says 99K. Yeah, Doc7 says Nvidia's revenue doubled. It's pretty incredible stuff. 10 Red Buff or Bluff, what's going on? Cheers. The Papa Smurf OG, what's going on? This is good evening, Tom from Soho. Just finished up a 14-hour shift. Oh my God. What a shitty rainy day in New York City. Stay dry. Good to see you and thank you for your service. FDNY is in the house. Yeah, it's been quite the frigid, blustery day. But again, as I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm trying not to complain about it because this weather has been absolutely beautiful so far in New York. I mean, we've been having 60-degree days, bright sunshine, and no rain for the past, 2 months. And it's almost Thanksgiving, which is great. Let's check out the ice skating rink. Now that there's no music, and now that there's no people, you can kind of get almost looks like a swimming pool right now. Steve Reno, what's going on? Hey, Phil. Cheers. Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't hear that. Trade Brigade says Solomon said that he wants Jamie Dimon to take the spot to do big shakeup. That's funny. That's pretty hilarious. I don't know, but I think this is all positive stuff. Now, you never know, guys. Maybe, just maybe, we will be live streaming when Bitcoin hits $100,000. I mean, it's literally a chip shot away from 100,000. It's literally a chip shot away from six-figure Bitcoin. That's less than a percentage point, I think, or about 1%. Like a 1% move in Bitcoin gets us at 100,000. Absolutely insane to see where we've come. Really nuts. Reminiscing, if you guys go over to my X page, I was reminiscing on some of my early days just finding out about Bitcoin. I think you'd enjoy some of those tweets I sent out. Just wild. And it's a good lesson because we've reviewed this on the live stream once before. I told you guys about kind of a coffee chat I had with one of my friends when I was back in Miami. This was maybe 2 or 3 months ago now. And he was a former, I should say ex-BlackRock guy who ran institutional money for very large and old family offices. So like old money. I mean, you could think about like the Rockefellers and all that. And the biggest thing that stood out to me when we were having coffee, he's like, the craziest thing when I was at work, he's like, some of our clients would have a zero cost basis on some of their stocks. So like a zero cost basis on ExxonMobil, a zero cost basis on DuPont. And they still hold these stocks. Now, the way he was explaining it to me, he's like, in the state of Delaware, if you purchased a stock before, a certain time and you don't have the original stock certificate to know like when you actually purchased it, I'm talking about, a ridiculously long time ago, they just mark it as a zero cost basis. And the lesson in that is, these are the wealthiest families on earth, right? Worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And they hold their investments through long durations, right? Now, I'm not saying, if you're trading individual stocks and the story changes, still hold it on a 80% drawdown. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, generally speaking, right? If you have investments and you want to build, indestructible, generational, long-term wealth, you got to keep it in the family and hold for decades or generations, right? And let that compound interest really pick up. If you just Google Warren Buffett net worth chart, this is one of my favorite charts online. Warren Buffett made the vast majority of his money in the latter third of his life, and it's a really good lesson in compound interest, right? So the longer you hold something, right, not just churning over your account aimlessly. Many people buy a stock, or many people, will invest money. It'll go up 20%, and then they're like, "Oh my God, it's up 20%. I'm gonna ring the register and cash it in," right? But if they'll ride a stock down 90%. So if you're investing in America, buying a major index like the S&P 500 in a retirement account, you generally want to just buy those and just hold them and think very long term, right? Again, going back, the wealthiest families, zero cost basis on some of these stocks, crazy. What is your account? What is your IRA, your 401k, or your trust that you set up? What is that going to look like when your grandkids are your age, right? That's kind of the mindset. Extend the long-term thinking, expand your thinking to extremely long-term time horizons, and that will, by default, steer you to the right investments. It'll steer you away from the gimmicky, get-rich-quick nonsense, and have you focus and have that mindset to building long-term, generational wealth in solid assets. This is a pretty interesting view here of the ice skating rink with no people on it. Almost kind of looks like a swimming pool now. The water's like pulled up on it. Hey, check the logic. What's going on? Good to see you. Cheers. Hang with Mark Mom. Welcome. Let's kind of get out of this patio area because the water is pooling up. There's like 2 inches of water in here. Oh wow, 456 says you just accepted an offer from Meta. Wow, very cool. Congrats, that's awesome. Okay. You're gonna have to give us the inside scoop on Zuckerberg. That's a huge accomplishment. Congrats to you. I'm gonna try to read as many comments as I can tonight in the chat, but I'm holding an oversized umbrella, so I'll try to scroll through the chat the best I can. Hey, Michelle K, the Mighty Bull. Welcome. Now, 456, are you going to be working in New York at Meta? Or are you talking about in a different state? Or are you in New York? If you want to disclose that, you don't have to, obviously. One more look at the massive scaffolding here. Ivan, what's going on? NBA Elias, Tom, I think Paul would make a good choice. Oops. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Anybody but Gensler. Let's just put it that way. Now, many of you don't really care about the whole Bitcoin ecosystem, and I get that. But at the end of the day, as an American, I am very competitive for my country. So I want all of that innovation to stay here, right? Selfishly so. I know we have an audience from all over the world. I get that, but you know, I want to compete and outcompete you guys, bluntly put. So I want all of that innovation to stay in the United States. I want all of that money to flow here. Because over the last 4 years, a lot of that innovation has flowed offshore, unfortunately, particularly talking about the crypto space to places like Abu Dhabi, when it's just really ridiculous. It should be here. So I think you're going to have a pretty big renaissance going forward. Someone says Bitcoin is a matter of national security at this point. Well, it is quite possible that we'll have a US Bitcoin treasury at this point. So we'll see. Someone says Larry Kudlow. Hope not. Hope not. I don't know. Nothing against. I just think. I think we need someone younger who understands the new wave. Hey, Fun Feeds, good to see you. Welcome. Four, 5, 6 is Peter Thiel. I don't know. Peter Thiel's a little bit of a shark for my. I mean, look, he's a smart guy. I like Peter Thiel, but I don't know. He's a little bit of a shark, that guy. Super White Shadow says, what about Charles Payne? Charles, as SEC chair? Sure. Why not? Screw it. Let's throw Charles in there. I'm down. Carl Ross says we need Kevin O'Leary to replace Gary and shock the world. You know, I mean, Kevin O'Leary, Kevin. He's a little bit. I don't think the Bitcoin environment needs that guy. He was the biggest pumpster. Sorry, my microphone dropped. But Kevin was the biggest pumpster of FTX. Took a lot of money from that company, probably millions and millions of dollars. I don't know. I still have a little bit of anyway. I don't think he really understands it. Let's just say that. I think Kevin O'Leary is interested in just making a dollar no matter what. Now, maybe he's not. I've never met the guy. But, you know, he was getting paid millions of dollars to promote, you know, FTX and went around on a big parade with Sam Bankman-Fried. Hold on one second. Now, to be fair, so did many other celebrities, right? I would like to see someone who actually understands Obviously, I mean, Kevin O'Leary is impossible. He would just never, ever, ever be in the running, obviously. But you need someone who understands it, not just a paid shill, as the slang is in the Bitcoin crypto space. You need someone who understands it, who's built a business in it, because this is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry. I think now that Bitcoin is trading over 99,000, Bitcoin is a $2 trillion asset now. This is a cool view here. Radio City Music Hall. Vladimir says, hey Tom, if the US government is ditching dollars to buy Bitcoin, what does that tell you about dollar strength? Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. But the thing that's such a big head scratcher though, right, is the Dixie or the dollar has been screaming higher. I mean, the dollar is very, very strong right now versus a basket of foreign currencies. So, you know, the dollar's actually holding up and is rallying here, which makes me think, I mean, imagine if we had a significantly weaker dollar, where would, you know, Bitcoin and some of these other assets be? This is outside of Newburgh, Berman. Yeah, NBA lies, dollar strength right now is a bit surprising. It is, I think this is maybe just a front running of what's to come. Because, I mean, if you think about it, Trump is a protectionist, whether you like describing him that way or not. But, you know, America first, America first, America first, that's like very protectionist behavior. And, you know, maybe a lot of people are trying to get their hands on as many dollars as possible. It's interesting. I mean, the whole market has been moving very interesting, to be blunt. I mean, just look at the bond market. The debt market is, you know, not in agreement with the overall Fed narrative of monetary policy. We've had 2 rate cuts now. 75 basis points worth of cuts total, and interest rates are higher than when we first started to cut. You know, mortgage rates are hitting highs, which, I mean, we've spoken about this before, but it leads me to believe that the bond market overall is kind of calling bluff on this whole government efficiency thing, you know, trying to save money, trying to reduce spending. I think spending is going to continue to rise, but we'll see. Who knows? It's also telling us that maybe inflation is going to pick up again. And also, so is Bitcoin, right? So is Bitcoin and so is gold. I mean, gold briefly traded below the 50-day moving average, but now gold has rallied back above the 50. What is gold trading at now an ounce? I think $26.50 or $26.70 an ounce. You know, we'll probably rally back over 2,700. But think about it. If you have Bitcoin knocking on $100,000, if you have gold that's going to knock on $3,000 an ounce, what is the market telling you about, you know, if we believe that the market is forward-looking by 6 to 12 months, what is the market telling us that where inflation is going to be in 6 to 12 months? This is a pretty interesting shot of Steinway Tower. Peter says, I think the Fed's next meeting, they'll pause interest rate cuts. Hey, Trade Brigade, cheers. Have a good night. This is the Warwick Hotel. All right, let me just adjust something here. All right, I think that should be better. Now, we heard from the president of Charles Schwab today. I don't know if you guys saw that. And again, I know that over the last really 2 to 3 weeks, we've been very heavy on our conversation with Bitcoin, but it's been a very, very historic move and a very explosive move. And we usually tend to skate to where the puck is going. So now that Gary Gensler is going to be out of there by January 20th, if we go back to that that poll, I think it was a Barron's poll of financial advisors saying, what is the number one reason why you don't recommend an allocation to Bitcoin or other crypto assets to your clients? An overwhelming number of those advisors said the number one reason is regulatory uncertainty and lack of clarity. So I'm not really that good at math, but I think I can follow this equation. So if financial advisors kind of, want to protect themselves, they just want to protect their own ass, they don't want to recommend an allocation, even if they may believe that their client should have an allocation, because there's just regulatory uncertainty. They don't know if they're kind of playing within the boundaries of what's good to say, what's bad to say, what I can and can't do. Well, now that we're going to have a fully conclusive, right, new set of regulatory framework, well, that will cancel out the number one reason why they wouldn't recommend some sort of an allocation. So with that problem being solved, I mean, think about all the new money over the next 5-10 years that's going to flow into the space, right? It's going to be pretty, well, it's going to be a lot. Let's just say that. Someone says the top lobbyists on Wall Street, or the top lobbyists in Washington, are defense spending. Well, the military-industrial complex is definitely not too happy. I mean, not to get too political, but what's been happening over just the last week with, the Biden administration giving a green light to, Ukraine to strike deep within Russia, like that's just fanning the flames of war, right? You even had some major politicians and some major donors, retweeting that news saying, wow, this is great news. Like, these people are total sociopaths, absolute sociopaths, right? Even if it was the right thing to do, right? Let's just assume it was the right thing to do to strike deep within Russia, right? For whatever reason. Isn't it kind of like sociopathic and weird to tweet, yeah, we're going to do long-range missile strikes deep within Russia? It's like, you're celebrating the death and destruction of civilians, because there will be civilians that get murdered over there. I mean, the whole war between Russia and Ukraine is just a total meat grinder. You essentially have the youth of Ukraine getting sent to their death for nothing, right? If you watch some of these videos of the front lines in the Ukraine-Russia war, it's just a bunch of nothingness. They're out in fields and they're flying these explosive drones into each other and dropping grenades on each other in little foxholes, getting mutilated and blown up. It's a total waste It's all to fuel the military-industrial complex and to fuel kickbacks to these big politicians. You know, all these, you know, the donors, I think Alex Soros was on X the other night saying, oh, wow, this is such a great news. Long-range missile strikes into Russia. Like, he's never going to go fight there. He's never going to go fight in a world war. He's going to be at his, you know, big penthouse in New York City, you know, tweeting away on his Twitter fingers, right? So, you know, I think we should adopt a new policy. If you're fanning the flames of a potential world war, you have to sign yourself away to go up and fight for it yourself. So, if you have all that money and influence and you're tweeting, oh, great news. Okay, yeah, well then you can go enlist and you could go there instead of, you know, a poor Ukrainian kid from some no-name town or a poor Russian kid from an impoverished town just going to get sent into a meat grinder. So, hopefully, the new administration will put an end to this. I'm sure the military-industrial complex won't be too enthused, but we'll see if we can beat them. You never know. Thomas O'Sullivan says, will you fight for your country? Of course, if it's just, right, and if it's a good cause. But if we're being lied to, and at the expense of these, you know, 80-year-old plus 90-year-old politicians, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So it'll be interesting to keep a very, very close eye on a lot of these defense stocks, right? Because it's very, very telling in the price action of these stocks. You know, again, the stock market and equities are forward-looking by about 6 to 12 months. So if you see those stocks rallying into Inauguration Day, you know, trading at 52-week highs, trading at all-time record highs, then that's essentially the market telling you, you know, it's going to be more of the same. Unfortunately so. There's a lot to be said in just reading the tape and reading price action. A super white shadow, what's going on? Brent Long says, are you walking by the Russian tea room? Yeah, we just did. It's this, the Russian tea room is right there. It's right next to Carnegie Hall. And it's right across the street from 157. Let's just take one quick look at Alwyn Court while we're here. Hey, Ethan G says, Tom, are you going to be going back to Miami anytime soon? Yeah, I'll be back the first day after Thanksgiving. I'll probably spend right around maybe like a week there, maybe like a few days. But I got to be back in New York December 5th. So we'll see. So maybe I'll fly out the day after Thanksgiving. I just got to check the airfare. And then maybe I'll fly back December 4th. This is Alwyn Court. Such an awesome shot right here. (157) Steinway. And Alwyn. Patrick Shanahan says, love the upward views. I'm glad you like them. It's getting quite windy here. We'll head back south of 57th Street. Is usually a little bit less windy. NBA wise, I heard about that. A lot of people are trying to front run the tariffs. Like I said, I think you're going to see, I mean, if the administration really goes all out on these tariffs, like the way they claim, I think that's going to be a short-term negative hit to the economy, right? Hey, Elliott Wave Review. What's going on? Hope you're doing well on this very rainy night. I'm not sure if you guys could see it, but the rain is like coming down sideways. Pineapple Waters is BTC consolidation at 100,000. For a little while or blow through. What is your opinion? I gave my exact opinion Thursday. I wrote a little bit about it. So if you check your email, or if you scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, that is my thesis for Bitcoin. We've been writing about it. Storm Chaser, thank you so much for your $2 donation. Says, good evening. What do you think about XRP crypto? I don't honestly think about it. I don't know really anything about it. I don't own it. I've never owned it. But assuming there's different regulatory changes, you know, one of the main reasons why I kind of stayed away from a lot of those alternative coins is because Gary Gensler is really alluding that they are unlicensed and unregulated securities, and that's something I really don't want to be buying or selling, right? Going back to, you know, the financial advisors saying there's just a lack of clarity around that. So the only thing I own and have owned is Bitcoin. Hey, Thomas O'Sullivan, cheers. Good to see you. You know, but here's one thing I will say, right? Because I have noticed a big uptick. And, you know, since we've been doing the streams now for almost two and a half years, you can kind of see, you know, if you've been watching regularly, you can kind of see multiple market cycles, right? We've been through two major cycles we've been covering live, and I'm sure you can pick up on some of the similarities and differences between them, right? So when the markets are ripping, you know, even just anecdotally here, right? You'll see more people kind of coming into the chat, just typing this coin, that coin. What do you think about this coin? What do you think about this stock? Is this stock a buy? Is this stock a sell? Right? That's kind of like, I think the best piece of advice I could give, and I can't give advice, is that you need to kind of be in it for duration. And, you know, if you kind of mosey into a cycle, right, and you have no exposure going into a bull, and you only start paying attention during a raging bull, and then when the bottom of the market falls out, you kind of go away for a year, you don't really pay attention to the price action, and then, you know, that is like a life cycle of, you know, the average retail trader. And that's why a lot of people say, you know, most investors and most traders will lose money. It's just because they're not in it, right? The investment business is something you either got to be in it, paying attention to it, or it's like, you should just probably index your money and just, dollar cost average into the S&P 500 or something like that, because it's not just about, hey, is this stock a buy or is this, coin a buy? I don't buy or trade any of the altcoins, to be honest, right? The point I'm trying to make is it's very dangerous to follow anyone's just blind advice on the market or on a specific investment, right? Like a lot of people will say, hey, Warren Buffett just bought this company, I'm gonna buy it too. Or hey, Paul Tudor Jones bought this stock. Even if the stock or the security or whatever commodity that you got the hot tip on goes up, how do you know when to exit, right? How do you know when to take profits? And if the stock starts to move the other way, oof, man, it's so windy, it's crazy. Oops, I gotta go back up. I forgot, we can't go down that way. There's no internet. I think we should be back. Let's see. Yeah, I think we should be back. I forgot. There's like a big dead zone right over there. So we're back. Well, yeah, so anyway, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, because I've been through multiple cycles now. And that's like the number one kind of downfall of an average retail investor. And it's not trying to sound like condescending or anything, but it's just the truth, right? If Paul Tudor Jones or some big investor comes on CNBC, says, hey, we're buying this stock, you buy it aimlessly without doing any of the work on the company, just because XYZ person bought it, the best investors are wrong about 60%, 50 or 60% of the time, but they still make a crazy amount of money because they know how to get out of the position, right? If they acquire a position, the stock starts moving the wrong way, they'll cut the loss, they'll get out at 8%, and then they'll go on to the next idea. Right? Most people, they'll take a hot stock tip or something, and then they'll write it down 80%. And then if the stock goes up, they'll just take the profit at 20%. So I would just like a word of caution as we're entering a monster bull market, right? Again, if you've been watching the streams almost every night, you can kind of notice the shift in the chat, right? People will come in and say, this stock, this coin, should I buy it? How much more is it going to go up, right? It's not, that's usually like when it's not the end of the run, but it's like, you don't want to, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're asking that question, I wouldn't even invest at all, because it's like there has to be more to it, if that makes sense, right? Now, yes, it's true, we talk about the financial markets and have conversations, but we just don't say, hey, are we buying this? How much more is it going to go up? Or hey, is Bitcoin going to go to 100,000, then go to 1 million? What should I buy it now? It's just, it's a very, very good lesson. I think another good example, Bill Ackman, right? This was way back, this was last cycle. Bill Ackman initiated a huge position, an earth-shaker position in Netflix, right? Netflix had a bad earnings report. The stock dropped, I think, over 30% in one day. Ackman exited the position and blew it out, right? Now, many people said, oh, that's ridiculous because now Netflix is back at a new all-time record high. What an idiot, he sold right at the exact bottom. No, he actually did the right thing, right? That's how you survive another day in the investment business, because there's no guarantee that it'll ever go back up. Right? There's many people who buy these stocks or these random coins and they'll hold them and they'll go to zero, right? You take the loss if it doesn't fit your thesis, and then you go into the next idea, right? And feed your winners. Another good example is like gardening, right? When you're gardening, you pull the weeds, right? If you have beautiful flowers growing in your garden, you're not going to go into your garden and rip out all the flowers and wait until the weeds turn into something else. No, you're going to go into your garden and say, what the hell are all these weeds doing in my garden? I'm going to rip out the weeds, and that'll allow more room for my flowers to grow. So think about a stock portfolio like that. If you have a winner, and let's say you bought a company and they're constantly reporting really, really good earnings, they're beating, on both the top and the bottom line, they're raising forward guidance, you kind of want to feed those stocks. You want to water those flowers. But if you thought XYZ stock was going to go up and it's going down, it's acting poorly, management is, there's a lot of infighting in management, they're bickering with each other, they're missing revenue estimates, they're missing earnings estimates. Well, that's a weed in the portfolio, right? You don't want to hold on to that weed until it blooms into a flower. You want to rip the weed out and throw it out, right? And water your flowers. But it's easier said than done. Very, very much easier said than done, so to speak. Yeah, Bretton Long says, let your winners ride, for sure. Jack says, you were talking about the 1% of the 1% of the wealth. Yeah, and that's how they invest, right? I think I may head back to the office. It doesn't seem that bad out, but the wind is just so cutting. It's just so cutting, the wind tonight. This is a good Brazilian steakhouse, but it's always packed here. Tonight's one of those nights where you should be inside, drinking some coffee, reading a good book. Speaking of good books, anybody have anything new and exciting? Anybody read anything good lately? Holidays are fast approaching. I always like to pick up a new and good book for the holidays. Mike G, what do you do when you get back to the office after hours? I usually look at what I own, look at my recent buys and sells. If I'm doing work on a stock, I'll continue to do work and research on a stock. Or if I have like a deal sheet to get out for a deal I'm working, I'll send it out. A lot of the marketing I do, like if I'm sending out emails and getting back to people, I'll prep that the night before and I'll set it to automatically go out in the morning. A lot of organizational stuff I tend to do at night. I would say I'm a total night owl. So I can really, really get a lot of deep work done at night. Terry says, I'm starting World Without End. I'll check it out. Someone says, I've been on an 80s biotech kick, reading Biotech University Industrial Complex by Martin Kenny. Felipe says, Understanding Crypto Fundamentals. Love is Kind says, I don't want to know what you read. Check the Logic says, I'm reading the Data Science Handbook. Interesting. Eye of the Needle, says Jack. We'll check it out. Wow, Alan's Diary of a CEO. I'll check it out. Now, one of the things I'm also doing, speaking about what I do when I get back to the office, I'm doing a lot of 2025 business planning. You know, doing like kind of a post-analysis on what I've done in 2024, thinking about what I've done that I did wrong, like what mistakes did I make this year, where could I have allocated my energy in more of an appropriate way? You know, where have I wasted time? And what activities did I do throughout the year that led to deals or led to, you know, an increase in productivity? What were those activities? And I want to try to do more of those in 2025 and less of the latter. That makes sense? And what could I do that I didn't do this year, next year, that'll take me, you know, to where I want to be? I have a few ideas. This is a cool view looking up Fifth Avenue. Carl Roth to sell more parking garages. Yes. Let's just say yes. A resounding yes. I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm working on a very awesome opportunity. Now we're back at Trump Tower. Terry's health, family, learning, all that stuff. Terry, that's a big one for next year for me. I want to double down / triple down on my health next year. I would say I'm a pretty healthy guy, but I really want to get in the gym. Really want to get in the gym heavy. The Invisibles says, I would say you've wasted time doing this in the cold rain, talking about reading books at 11 p.m. Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, the connections that I've made through this live stream, I mean, has netted me multiple six figures this year alone. And thinking about the network I've grown here, the deals that I've done just from people watching the stream, people that have written us checks to invest with us, just from, hey, Tom, I like the stream. I'm, you know, the head of this family office. You know, how can we work together? Or, hey, you know, I work at this small private equity firm. I want you to do some consulting work on a deal that we're doing some diligence on in New York. So it's crazy. You'd be surprised, but this little, nothing, teeny live stream, I mean, if you put a multiple on it, right? Let's say if it's worth, times X revenue that I could have said came from either a connection to this stream or something, it's technically worth probably, probably a couple $1 million, to be honest. Just this stream alone of like the pipeline of deals and just the deal flow that I get from just the awesome people who tune in. If it was a sellable asset, which it's not, right? It's not a sellable asset. But if you had to put like a multiple on it, like a 3 or 4x, revenue, it's like a multi-million-dollar business, which is kind of crazy. And also, I'll say this, you never, ever, ever know who's watching or reading your work ever. That's why I think with everything you do, you always got to put on your best. If you work at a Starbucks and you think, this is a dead-end job, I'm never going to excel in the career, you should come to work with a smile on your face every day. You never, ever know. It takes one customer, one interaction to change the course of your life. Seriously. So whatever you do it with everything you got. But guys, I gotta go. Gotta head back to work. We'll see you soon. Carl Roth, appreciate it. If you enjoy these live streams, we also do write a free investing newsletter. Check out our Substack. We publish all of our research every other Thursday. You can scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, and we'll see you guys in the next one. So cheers, stay dry, stay safe. Professor Dario, thank you. Sally, Joseph Hardaway, Thomas O'Sullivan, MBA Elias, Kanye Ruiz, New England Crypto, Terry, Steve, Ivan, Two Wheel Freedom, Armando, Mike G, Mohammed, Solo Flyer, Gospel, Patricia Ivory, Brenton Long. Have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow. The Boglin, thank you so much. Cheers.